Hello, wonderful world. This is my first appearance. I'm Digital Grin, and today I'm replacing Dungeons and Dragons. Cue the title. But of course, context must come first. If you don't care about context for some reason and just want to hear what I'm making, well, you can skip to this time. I've been a Dungeon Master for a year or two now, and I like D&D as much as the next person, but I've been having some issues, so to set up the rest of this video, I have to list them out for you. So I'm going to do that with as little rambling as possible, but bear with me, there's going to be some rambling. So if you know me in person, you know that I'm always trying to get my friends to play D&D, but most of them haven't even played before. This results in me having to explain again and again a lot of the systems, and that gets tedious. For the people that I play with, who aren't used to the genre, the rules of D&D can also be a bit difficult to understand. I'm looking at you, spell system. Because of this, I often have to run more simplified campaigns that are more suited to first-time players. Unfortunately, this means I'm never running proper D&D, and the campaigns suffer from it. Although, a benefit of DMing for new players is that they rarely notice. These are usually more story-focused campaigns than gameplay-focused, since that's what I love about D&D. It's the adaptive and improvisational storytelling. But that means that fights are more feel-based usually, and that makes them easier. And that's not always bad. There's times for a great cinematic fight, but you can't really fail at all. Also, everyone in my life, especially me, is incredibly busy, and that makes scheduling a big pain. Like, let's say, I can't make it to next Sunday, but my friend can, then I can make it to the Sunday after, but my friend can't make it there. I'm sure you get the being busy. If one of these people is trying D&D for only one session, they've also spent half their time creating a character. For a lot of new people, this is a big holdup because there's a lot of confusing parts. Once they get past the confusing parts, it's often something that a lot of players really enjoy, but getting past the confusing parts can be a bit difficult. Now, D&D does have some innate solutions to these, hence why it's so popular, but they don't fully work for the exact system I'm trying to make, which I'll get to that in a second. For instance, one-shots exist. For those of you who don't know, those are basically short one-session adventures. These are, however, usually, and I say usually because there's plenty of exceptions, constrained to a single adventure, and players aren't often as invested in that as they would be a full campaign. Another way people get around scheduling problems is having a rotating cast, which is some people are there one day, and those who can't make it just miss one session and have to be caught up. But you have to explain this through the plot, and it often creates kind of like a disconnection. For the complexity and time of creating a character, there are also pre-built or quick-build characters, but they don't really feel unique or personal to most people, as opposed to a fully built character for a full campaign. The one problem that doesn't have a easy solution without fully modifying the system is rules. You need good rules to run a good campaign, but if the rules are too complex, they get in the way. And now, I can hear you saying, "Hey Alex, you need to find a better system that works for you." And to that wonderful world, I would say, not exactly. I put a thingy in the script that says, "I bet you can see where I'm going now," and I'm rethinking it. So with our main requirements defined, those of beginner-friendly but effective rules, support for a rotating cast, and the need for a fast but detailed character system, I can finally introduce to you my solution, which, right now, I call Project World Machine. Now, this was originally going to be a custom subsystem of D&D, but it got so complex that I thought pivoting to a new TTRPG would be better for the long run. Problem is, I didn't want to spend days poring through the many TTRPGs that are out there, so instead I gave myself even more work. And I said, oh, I'll just make my own. Now, in terms of workload, this is the worst thing I could have done. But I still think it was the best choice. I get to build a system that fits directly around the problems exactly as I want, I can credit myself as the author and leave it open enough that people can use the systems in any way they like. Now, the best way for me to introduce to you the premise also explains the character problem. And no, before you ask, lore will be discussed in another video, not this one. But trust me, there's a lot of lore and it's pretty cool. Anyway, players will start out as any character they've ever made. That's a character from D&D, another TTRPG, a story they've written, or literally anything else, as long as it's a character they have made. If somehow you've never come up with a character, you can play as yourself. So, if I were doing that, and I had never made a character, I would play as Alex of Digital Grin. Now, it's recommended to play as a character, but if you want to play as yourself and you have created characters, you can play as yourself. The character, who's personal because you've used them in something else and now are playing them, will have access to what functions as like a hub area, kind of. From this hub area, you can go on different adventures. Each of these adventures, through a little bit of plot magic, exists in an entirely separate world from the other, except for, of course, exceptions. There's always exceptions. So, one might be high fantasy, the next one over might be mountain climbing, and the one across the hall, we're going to cover that in another video, because it's really cool. Now, there's two cool bits with this. The first is a sort of character adaptation. The character is always the same, so I would always be playing Alex of Digital Grin, but depending on which adventure you're going on, your character can do different things. There are these archetypes that you can choose from. Most are supported in all adventures, and you will choose between a different one each adventure. You can pick the same one. Using D&D terms, these would be things like fighter, ranger, mage, etc., so on and so forth. Each adventure has a unique specialty that it assigns to these archetypes. So let's say you really like to pick ranger. You go mountain climbing, you pick a ranger. They have a hookshot to help them hit the whatever flying things live on a mountain. But you go to the sci-fi adventure, and the ranger will have a laser gun. That would be the specialty that is applied to the archetype. Specialty is only on the mission. Archetype spans all missions, but can be modified. After each adventure, the archetype that the player is using that time gets a little upgrade. This upgrade will carry over into future adventures. This lets people build up one thing they're mostly familiar with, but also lets them experiment with other playstyles non-committally. Like you can be the ranger for most of your adventures, but let's say you get a bit tired of that, so you can play a mage for one adventure. Then you don't like the mage, so you try out fighter. Your ranger upgrades they're all still there, and it only takes one session to try out these new things, so you don't have to commit long term. Now, aside from archetype upgrades, there's also going to be an item system. When you complete an adventure successfully, it has to be successful, you would get a certain item. This item would be something that you had previously used in the adventure. So, let's say you had a fancy ice pick that you found and you used it a bunch. That would be something that you can take and potentially carry over to future adventures. Now, the second cool thing with this solves the rotating cast issue, and it's that each adventure should, in theory, take only one session to run. This will allow whoever's there during one session to go on one adventure, and everyone who missed it can do that same adventure with a different group. This also allows people to try being the game master for one session, either running a base adventure, and there's going to be plenty of those, or trying their hand at world building and running a custom one, or running something that one of their friends made. And yes, there is going to be plenty of support for custom adventures. Now, while I would love to go into full detail on everything, this is only the introductory video, and the project is still a very big work in progress. I'll cover more things in future videos, like solving the rule complexity problem, the actual rule set itself, difficulty, progression, replayability, and all of the little pieces that make up a functioning game. Oh, yes, and the lore. I'll cover that too. Thank you so much for making it to the end of this short little introduction. Share your ideas with me in the comments. I really want to know them, and I might even end up putting some in. Just don't be too mean. If you really enjoyed, consider leaving a like or even subscribe. I'm trying to see how far I can take this project, and to do that, I need your guys' help. Share the video with people you think would enjoy it. Word of mouth is fine, internet message is fine, anything that spreads the video. Make sure to stay tuned for the actual first entry into Project World Machine, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.